And with that, we are up to out there. How are we doing today? Yeah, we ready to get to work? Ready to have some fun? I know I am. Let's get going. And fabulous day. Being able to see and talk to family on a video visit became a daily occurrence. With so much available time and freedom to pick times that worked well for others, I was able to catch up with friends and hear how their lives were. And hear all about their lives. That's better. With so much available time and freedom to pick with so much available time and freedom to pick what worked well for others, I was able to catch up with friends and hear all about their lives. I'd be lying if I didn't admit it hurt a little. They were raising a family, getting new jobs and opportunities, education, and I was the very definition of stagnant. My entire life had ground to a halt, and there wasn't much to be done. And there wasn't much I could do about it. If I was in prison, I could at least pick up a new hobby, get a job, or take college classes. But here, they had nothing available to detainees in the way of self-improvement. "Altman!" the CO yelled from behind the desk. The deputies still all yelled at you. That never seemed to change. "Attorney visit." Well, I could worry about self-improvement when I was free again. For now, my focus would just have to be on working with my attorney. Would just have to be on working with my lawyer to prove my innocence. Clearing my name had to be priority number one. After all, a good name is more valuable than silver or gold. Going to see my attorney was a completely new experience. I wasn't shackled up like some dangerous animal. There was no deputy escorting me either. I was just me, walking down a long hallway until I got to the right door. At one point, I passed one of the fat nurses going the other direction. She said hello, I returned the greeting, and we passed each other without trouble. Suddenly, all the unnecessary security I'd been under for so long seemed rather ridiculous. Instead of being trapped in a small room with cold air blowing on me, where everyone in the pod can listen in on my meetings with my lawyer, could listen in on my meetings with my lawyer, we were in a private room. Instead of being trapped in a small room with cold air blowing on me, where everyone in the pod could listen in on my meetings with my lawyer, we were in a warm, private room. There we go. Shorter sentence means cleaner sentence, people. A short sentence is a strong sentence. Let's focus on that. Let's pay attention to that. And just like that, instead of being trapped in a small room with cold air blowing on me, where everyone in the pod could listen in on my meeting with my lawyer, we were in a warm private room. Unshackled, I was able to get animated, share papers easily, and communicate as I typically would. It was the first strategy meeting where I felt like I could contribute, where I felt I could fully contribute. Unshackled, I was able to get animated, share papers easily, and communicate as I typically would. It was the first strategy meeting where I felt like I could fully contribute. I left the meeting feeling confident in my defenses and ready to take on the world. I walked back to the dorms by myself with a smile on my face. A beautiful 40-yard throw to the end zone. The ball glided. A beautiful 40-yard throw to the end zone. The ball glided over the defender's head. As the receiver spun around, arm outstretched for a one-handed catch. The tips of his toes barely scraped the turf in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown for the win! Woo! So exciting! Oh, so exciting. The entire dorm cheered. Watching football here with 40 other fans is a lot more fun than trying to make it out what's happening through a small cell window you have to share with a cellie. Leprechaun came over and handed me the Kit Kat that touchdown had won me. Leprechaun came over and handed me the Kit Kat the touchdown had just won me. The amount of commissary I'd won off football that day had me in a good mood. I smiled at Leprechaun. This Kit Kat is going to taste so good knowing it's from Leprechaun. I made sure to say it so everyone heard. I can't wait to eat Leprechaun's Kit Kat knowing it was bought with his money. It's going to taste so good knowing I won it from him. Because I'm a smart football fan and he's not. A few people close by chuckled. Leprechaun was turning the same shade as his hair. Okay, let's run it back on my team's game. Your team's the Cowboys. Hell yes. Hell yes, I'll bet against your team. If they were really America's team, they'd have a winning record. If they were really America's team, they'd have a winning record. Yeah, that's good. I'd win this bet too and make a big deal about eating the Kit Kat right in the middle of the dorm, where all could hear how I won, and more importantly, how Leprechaun lost. Yes, Football Sunday in the dorms was a good day. As far as jail was concerned, it was the best. Give me a plate of nachos, I'd almost feel normal. Give me a plate of normals, I'd have almost felt normal. I'd have almost felt normal. Yep, that's the way I'm going to say it. That's the way to say it, guys. Frankie came over to our table with a chess set in his hand. Hey, Trevor, down for a game? I'm kind of watching football, and I don't want to have to think too hard. How about checkers? All right. As he set up the board, I asked the important question. What are we playing for? Oh, let's just play for fun. He clearly didn't understand that gambling is fun. That gambling was fun. He clearly didn't understand that gambling is fun. No, I always play for something. Now, about your diabetic milk against my lunch rice. That should be how. How about your diabetic milk against my lunch rice? Dot dot dot. All right. I love that when he's like, I don't really want to make this bet, but I'm going to anyway because I'm so desperate to please people and play. Which is a continuous theme with Frankie. Within a few minutes, his milk was mine. I knew Frankie was desperate to play with someone. I also knew he took forever to make a decision in chess. If I gambled with him, I wanted to win a lot and win it fast. We played 13 games of checkers before halftime. Frankie finally walked away from the table owing me 8 milks, 8 diabetic sandwiches, 3 normal sandwiches, a side of coleslaw, a side of potatoes, salad, 10 condiments, 20 juices, and his next 4 lunches. Yes, it was a productive day. Without fear of losing, I took my wild one-sided bet I could think of to get him to agree. Yep, if only he had commissary. I'd have really been cooking with grease. Cooking with Crisco. Cooking with grease. If you guys aren't from the South, that's a very popular saying way down there. So, Otis came up to me while I was once again almost doing a full pull-up. I just couldn't seem to last through the third set. Dude, Frankie is giving you, like, everything off trays. Everything off his trays. I know, I said with a smile. It's so much food, I end up trading or giving a lot of it away. Don't you feel kind of guilty taking advantage of him? Nope. Not even a little? Should I? Otis gave a shrug. Most people would. Well, most people are stupid. A philosophy I'd had for a while. He's a grown man. I didn't force him to bet. It's not my fault I'm amazing at checkers and he's a retard. And he's a retard who doesn't know when to quit. It says no slurs. Retard isn't slurred, right? Right? I'm going to say no. It's not a slur. We're good to go. I didn't think much of the conversation, or... It's not my fault. I'm amazing at checkers, and he's a retard. I didn't think much of the conversation, or those listening to it, until the next morning when I didn't get my milk. When I didn't get his lunch, I called Frankie over to my table. Hey, Frankie, come sit down. I'm good. I didn't ask how you were. He stood staring at me like a deer in the headlights. I was aware of the many eyes and ears turned our way as I commanded, "Take a seat, Frankie." He slowly took a seat across from me. The fear in his eyes was intoxicating. I let several seconds of silence tick by before speaking again. "What's going on, Frankie?" "Nothing." "Nothing?" He nodded. "Then why didn't I get my food today? My blood sugar's been giving me..." "I don't care about your fucking blood sugar. We have an agreement and you need to pay on time." "We have an agreement and you need to pay on time." The dorm was oddly quiet as everyone waited to see what happened. Frankie took a deep breath. "Look, I don't feel that the bets were fair. Look. I don't... No, we'll leave it how it is. Look, I don't feel that the bets were fair." "You agreed to them." He started over his next response. I feel like you took advantage of me. You're too good at checkers. I feel like you cheated." Yeah, that's better. I feel like you cheated. I let my anger show. Felt. Feel? You feel. I don't give a fuck how you feel. I care about reality. The reality is, we made a bet, I won, you lost, fair and square. He gave a timid shrug. I don't think it was fair. So you're not going to pay me? No. Listen here, you fucking retard. You're going to pay up, or I'm gonna... Let's fix that. Or I'm gonna beat your ass and curb stomp the back of your head until you don't have any teeth. You're gonna pay up, or I'm gonna beat your ass and curb stomp. You're gonna pay up. You're gonna pay up, or I'm gonna beat your ass and curb stomp the back of your head until you don't have any teeth. His face was pale, but he was clearly acting as tough as he could muster for the sake of those listening. We can fight if you want to go to the hole, clearly trying to remind me of what's at stake if we do. Good, let's go to the bathroom. The one place in the dorms we could fight in privacy without security cameras or COs having direct sight of us was the bathroom. The one place in the dorms we could fight in privacy without security cameras or COs having direct sight of us was the bathroom. No. If we fight, it's going to have to be right here in front of the COs. You're not going to go into the bathroom to handle this. No. Because you're a pussy. He stuttered for a moment, not sure how to respond. I continued in a loud enough voice for all to hear. You don't want to go to the bathroom because you're a little bitch. You won't fight me. Another moment passed before he looked down at the ground. Yes, you're a pussy. Yes, I am. And with that admission, he walked away. Several murmurs and chuckles erupted. Several chuckles. And with that admission, he walked away. Several murmurs and chuckles escaped. Escaped the audience. Most couldn't believe he called himself a pussy. A few nodded my way and offered words of encouragement. But I wasn't done yet. He started watching TV, so I went over next to him. Flexing my muscles, I said, pussy, as I changed the channel. Frankie got up and walked away. I was still watching TV as Leprechaun came over and asked, You done flexing yet? I want to play chess. With a stern face and scowl Frankie's way, I said, I'm not even close to done, but I've got time for chess. Next, I went over to the black table. Frankie was watching them play dominoes. Hey, did you know Frankie's a little bitch who goes back on bets? Who goes back on his bets? Hey, did you guys know that Frankie's a little bitch who goes back on his bets? Gaucho looked up from his dominoes. You go back on your word, youngster? That's unchristian. Frankie tried to act tough. Look, man, we can fight, I laughed. All right. Finally, let's go to the bathroom. No, we gotta fight right here. The entire table of blacks looked at Frankie like he was a purple chicken. Gaucho spoke up. Nah, that ain't how it's done, youngster. That ain't how it's done, youngster. You've been called out to the bathroom. To the bathroom. You gotta go to the bathroom. You gots to go to the bathroom. Another black guy chimed in. Yeah, now go find a toilet and take your ass whoopin'. Frankie stuttered again. No, I I can't. I ain't gonna fight you. No, I'm not gonna fight you. We're going to use some of those nice little author marks, some of those author dashes. Why? Because I'm an author and I can. I did my best not to smile, thinking it might ruin the scary tough guy thing I had going on. I did my best not to smile, thinking it might ruin the scary tough guy thing I had going on. Okay, you fucking retard. You'll have to go to the bathroom sometime. And when you do, I'll be ready. You're not even gonna see me coming. So enjoy your teeth while you can, you bitch-ass pussy. He walked away while I got a bunch of aw mans from the blacks. It wants me to change man to men, but clearly, that's not how it's done. He walked away while I got a bunch of aw-mans from the blacks. Frankie was really starting to piss me off. I started to think of all the ways I could cause some serious damage. My favorite idea was to mix a bunch of petroleum jelly and water in my cup. I'd then nuke it in the microwave, making some boiling oil. Throwing that in his face and eyes, suddenly Frankie would have himself a grade A medical emergency. While revenge sounded sweet, I dismissed it. I really didn't want to go back to living in a cell. I had too much to lose in the dorm. If I was still in Maximum, I wouldn't have thought twice about knocking his teeth in. But this was a more civilized place. This was a more civilized place than Max. And I had to remain civilized if I was to remain in it. If I wanted to remain in it. As it turned out, I was glad I didn't burn out his eyeballs. Standing around the pinochle table later, Frankie came up to me. Everyone at the table held their breath as I greeted him. Hey, pussy. Look, Trevor, do you want your food? I want to fight. If I give you the food, will you cut the shit? You're a fucking lame-ass, bitch-ass pussy whose father was a hamster and mother smelled of elderberries. Whose father was a hamster and mother smelled of elderberries. Do you want the food? Sure. He looked relieved. So we're good. You're a pussy. Yes, I am. We're good? As long as I get my food. Okay, great. I got in one last pussy comment as he walked away. A few people congratulated me, but everyone agreed Frankie was officially the biggest bitch in the dorm. I was just happy my meals were giant once more. Giant once more. A little while after our conversation, Gaucho ran over to tell me to look in the bathroom. That boy been holding onto his piss all day, fearing and beating. Sure enough, Frankie was taking a long piss. Instead of focusing on what he was doing as most people do, he was quickly swiveling his head over his shoulder. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. His head jerked like a cartoon character. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a yellow puddle at his feet. Frankie had proved himself to be a wabbit during wabbit season. The next week was full of Frankie jokes, none of them kind. He was the only one who sat all alone at meals. Without anyone willing to play games with him anymore, he spent all day walking aimlessly. Frankie was the definition of a little lost puppy. Everyone kept kicking. Frankie was the definition of a little lost puppy everyone kept kicking. After a week, he couldn't take it anymore. He went up to the deputy. And asked to protective custody out of the dorms. To be sent to the hole. He wanted to be sent to the hole. When the CO refused, he snapped his spoon in half right in front of the deputy's face. Handcuffed and thrown in a little cell, waiting to be taken to the hole, he started to freak out. Yelling and smacking his forehead against the metal door, Frankie's racket filled the room. Soon he was taken away, and our peaceful dorm was restored. Aw, that's so good. Let's wet the whistle, make sure we can keep going. Whew. I'm usually really good at just continuing on, but my throat is getting dry. Let's keep going. Let's keep editing. Let's make something fun on our writing journey. And thank all of you for joining me for it. What are y'all working on? Y'all having a fun day too? Yeah? Glad to hear it. Later that evening, Jackson heard the COs talking as a new deputy arrived. Dude, check this out. Who is that? Frankie. No way. Yeah, dumbass has been locked in the chair for 6 hours. He just won't stop. Haha, that's awesome. This I had to see. Going to the far left by the showers, I could see behind the CO's desk. On the right monitor, they were watching YouTube videos. On the left were a bunch of security cameras. And there, largest of all the videos, was Frankie. He was struggling against the chair restraints, screaming his head off. Phew, excuse me. The dorms were such a good thing, even if everyone thought you were a bitch. The dorms were such a good thing, comma, even if everyone thought you were a bitch. Asked Pussy, who went back on bets. I couldn't understand how Frankie could throw it all away. To go back to living in a small cell, this time for 23 hours a day. All I knew was I wasn't going to risk losing my spot in the dorms. I was going to remain the picture-perfect detainee. I'd never go back to Max. Dun, dun, dun. And that is what we call a foreshadowing. So, let's see here. Chapter 10. Dealing with disappointment. Aww. Everybody go, aww, aww. Disappointment. So sad. Dealing with disappointment, Chapter 10. I went back to Max after 25 days of blissful, wonderful, ecstatic jail dorm existence. It was right before lunch when they started to move people. By mealtime, we were 20 very confused inmates. I heard Deputy Stone telling a few of the guys who were worried about moving that they were going to the dorm just like this. That they were going to a dorm just like this one. I heard Deputy Stone telling a few of the guys who were worried about moving that they were going to a dorm, comma, just like this one, said Autist. They must need this dorm for the girls again. Leprechaun shifted in his seat. Then why didn't they move all of us? I gave a low sigh. Because they don't have enough room for all of us. So they're gonna send us that are left back to Max. They chose us because we have the worst charges. No way, Leprechaun burst out. No way they're sending us back to close custody. comma. Not after we did everything right and proved we could... Not after we did everything right. Let's turn that into a new sentence. We proved we could be in a dorm setting. But that's exactly what they did. After lunch, we were all told to pack up our shit and be ready to move. In groups of 6, we were marched back to maximum security, close custody, hellhole. None of us were happy, but Leprechaun was especially pissed. This is fucking stupid. The sergeant, spell sergeant correctly here, the sergeant escorting the group perked up at this. What's stupid? This, moving us back when we've done... This, moving us back when we've done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. They've done nothing wrong. The sergeant puffed out his chest at this. The sergeant puffed out his chest at that. The fuck you think this is? You think this is terrible? I'll show you fucking terrible. I can move you somewhere you'll really suffer. Is that what you want? Transposed a few letters there. Is that what you fucking want? Quit bitchin'. We were shocked and yet somehow not surprised that Sergeant would yell and cuss. That a sergeant would yell and cuss at an inmate in such a public fashion. Leprechaun would later file a grievance about the sergeant's conduct. Of course, our testimonies weren't taken seriously, and none of the deputies said the sergeant did anything wrong. As an inmate, we clearly learned not to expect much. Not to expect much from internal investigations dealing with corrections staff. As an inmate, we quickly learned not to expect much from internal investigations dealing with corrections staff. Arriving at our old pod, we were given orange uniforms again and assigned new cells. My new housemate was known as the Mafia, thanks to his heavy Italian heritage. You looked at this guy and knew he was related to Al Capone, but I wasn't in the mood to get to know a new cellie. I was pissed. I'd done everything right. I'd proven myself minimum/medium security, throwing me back in maximum after, even though I'd followed all the rules. Been a model inmate was a huge... Even though I'd followed all the rules and been a model inmate was a huge ball of shit to the face. Huge ball of shit to the face. Huge ball. Well, Mafia said as we laid on our separate bunks, it's always good to eat a little shit every day so you don't lose the taste of it. I turned over, closing my eyes. I didn't want to eat shit. I wanted to wear blue again. I wanted all the amenities I now knew existed. In many ways, it'd have been easier if I'd never been in the dorm. If Max was all I knew with no comparison. They even confiscated my noodles and pop card. Why couldn't we enjoy these in Max? No microwave. Okay. I'll let the top ramen soak in hot water for 4 hours. If needed. Okay. I'll let the top ramen soak in... Yeah, that's better. I'll let the top ramen soak in hot water for hours if needed. My pod was life. Didn't have to be nearly as bad as it was. my pod, my life didn't have to be nearly as bad as it was. You don't like it? Then don't come to jail. That's what a CO said to me when I tried to explain why temperature checks should be done at an earlier time. This would be reiterated by several deputies at different times. Let's change that. This would be reiterated by several deputies on different occasions. That looks better. They seem to know we all chose to come to jail. They seem to think we all chose to come to jail. And maybe if it was terrible enough, we wouldn't come back. This, of course, was a huge fallacy. Jail is bad enough without anyone making it worse. Not being around family and friends is bad enough. Missing my daughter's birthday is bad enough. Missing Christmas, Thanksgiving, the birth of my nephew was bad enough. Jail was bad enough without anyone making it worse. Not being around family and friends was bad enough. Missing my daughter's birthday was bad enough. Missing Christmas, Thanksgiving, and the birth of my nephew was bad enough. Jail could be a college dorm room with pizza in the oven, and I'd still long for my freedom. Fact, a lot of jails in Europe are just that, dorm rooms. And there's no reason that they need to be anything more or anything less. Because it's still awful. Jail is terrible. You're not around family or friends. But if it's really about rehabilitation, then it should be rehabilitating, right? We should be able to take classes, do things that improve ourselves, our circumstances, further our knowledge. And you just didn't get any of that at this facility. And part of that is because it's jail and not prison, and because you're only there, supposed to be there for a short stay. But the reality is, if you're going to trial, even without COVID, you're waiting 5 months. And then because of COVID, you had people waiting 2 years. Easy. It's awful. As far as coming here is concerned, not all of us chose to be arrested. There is such a thing as being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or in many cases, trusting the wrong person. But regardless, most of us aren't convicts. We haven't been convicted of any crime. We're simply awaiting our chance, our right to defend ourselves and clear our names. A fact the COs seem not to be aware of. I'm not saying there aren't pieces of shit in Max. There are. Druggies, thieves, and abusers. There we go. That's better. That's a cleaner sentence, guys. Much better. Okay. Druggies, thieves, and abusers who keep leaving and returning to incarceration. Druggies, thieves, and abusers who keep leaving and returning to incarceration. Or just a few. But that in no way excuses the deputy's behavior. Or means they should treat all inmates the same. Our situation is shitty enough without shitty treatment from the COs. Speaking of shit, our situation in Max turned a lot shittier thanks to COVID. What was once 4 cells out at a time for 3 hours was now 3 cells only out for 2 hours. Losing that extra hour was felt more than anything. Excuse me. 2 hours after visits with family, shower, and trades felt like little time left little to no time for cards. Left little to no time for cards. 2 hours after visits with family, shower. 2 hours after visits with family, showers, and trades, left little time for cards. Temperature checks were done twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. Some deputies did temp checks as early as 7:30, 8:15 in the morning, and 11:15 at night. Some deputies did temp checks as early as 7:30 in the morning and 11:15 at night. If there was one thing we didn't need, it was another interruption to our sleep. Little to no REM sleep was starting to get to me, especially after I got used to sleeping for 7 uninterrupted hours. I wrote a grievance regarding the timing of temp checks. The response I got back ignored what I said and told me that temp checks were required. Grievance responses rarely addressed the actual issue, and never seemed to lead to any real solutions. COVID would continue to affect our lives through... I don't like that I say continue and then continued. COVID would continue to affect our lives through ongoing court date suspensions, no kitchen staff, leading to plain sack lunches, leading to plain sack meals that were far below par. No inmate workers, causing a lack of laundry, towels, and sharp pencils. And forced COVID testing. If you didn't want to get tested, you were threatened to be taken to the hole and force your cellie to join you. If you didn't want to get tested, you were threatened to be taken to the hole and you'd be forcing your cellie to join you. If they couldn't get what they wanted by sending you to the hole, they threatened your cellie because you might have infected them with COVID. They threatened your cellie because you might have infected them with COVID, regardless of what their test said. Regardless of what your test said. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, Trevor. It was Leprechaun. Dude, this is retarded. We were just playing cards together in the dorm. Now we're suddenly too dangerous to be out together. We have to be sectioned off into these small groups and stay trapped in a cell for 22 hours a day, every day. He was right. Way I saw it, There was no reason we couldn't open all the cells. We couldn't open all the cell doors and turn the pod into a dorm. Or if they didn't want all of us out at once. The bottom half and top half of the pod could split the day. I gave a sigh. It's so stupid. I really feel bad for Mexican. Look at him down there, sitting alone, not able to talk to anybody in his group. In the dorms, they had a blast playing cards and chatting it up. I think everyone's feeling down or pissed off. I think everyone's feeling down or pissed. That's why everyone needs to write a letter to the captain, explaining why we deserve more freedom and have proven we deserve that freedom. Let's change that freedom to it. Sounds more natural. That's why everyone needs to write a letter to the captain, explaining why we deserve more freedom and have proven we deserve it. Trustworthy. Trustworthy? Now let's make it all one word. Trustworthy. Trustworthy. Explaining why we deserve more freedom and have proven ourselves trustworthy. You think it'll work? If we all write one, he can't ignore it. The sergeant later came and told us the captain received our letters, discussed them, and ultimately decided to ignore them. Dun dun dun. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Gramps and a couple of... Where are we at? We're at 5 of 16. Gramps and a couple of other murderers Gramps and a couple of other murderers we'd left behind were excited to see me. Gramps and a couple of other murderers who'd been left behind were excited to see me. Seeing that I wasn't too happy about being back, a few tried to cheer me up with friendly talk, cards, and keeping me occupied. I even got a mayo as a welcome back present. Jail is terrible, but a few friends can really brighten the dark days. All of us back in Mac seemed to be feeling down and depressed. This wasn't anything new. Everyone in jail ends up dealing with disappointment at one time or another. We all dealt with it differently. Mike fractured his hand punching the wall when he found out his girlfriend decided to get engaged to another man. Sal broke down crying when he got 11 years prison time. And Greg tried to kill himself by eating a bunch of apple seeds. Mike fractured his hand punching a wall when he found out his girlfriend decided to get engaged to another man. Sal broke down crying when he got 11 years prison time. And Greg tried to kill himself by eating 100 apple seeds when he found out his wife and kids had moved out of state, sold the house, and put a protection order against him. Life is full of disappointments. And jail is full of disappointed people. Panda was at my door discussing our feelings. I was kind of enjoying playing psychoanalysis. That's not right. It's psychoanalyst. That's better. I think the way you're feeling, the way we're all feeling right now, is completely natural. We all got used to certain freedoms and routine. We all got used to certain freedoms and routines that we're mourning the loss of. It's only natural that we're all feeling tired, sluggish, and not wanting to do much of anything. I could totally play a doctor on TV. I could totally play a doctor on TV. Yeah, that's why I'm going to talk to MHP. MHP stood for Mental Health Professional. Inmates could request a meeting with one. Going to try and get some feel-good pills? No, I don't want meds to determine my mood. But I hear they can give you a few worksheets and coloring pages. I think something to color might be nice. Calming, you know? I did know. Something to keep your mind and hands occupied. That was different from the same old reading. For me, that was Sudoku. For others, crossword puzzles and word searches. For Panda, it was coloring. I thought if this worked, I might meet with mental health too. Getting some puzzle pages sounded good, and it might be nice to talk with someone about what was going on in my life. Panda met with a woman from MHP the next morning in the cold little meeting room. He was in the room for about 10 minutes. 2 minutes after the meeting, CEOs came in and hauled Panda out of the pod. We knew it was serious when deputies came and took all his stuff. Four days later, Panda returned and told us his horror story. We just started talking. I said my day was going okay, but I was running out of things to do. So, could I get a coloring book? She started asking me if I ever felt depressed. I said no. Was I suicidal? No. Never even thought about suicide? No. Don't have any idea how you might try and kill yourself? Nope. I don't want to hurt myself. Nope. I don't want to hurt myself. But if I did, would I know how? Well, I mean, anyone could use a sheet to hang themselves. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where Panda fucked up. He trusted and talked freely with a mental health professional. Now he's going to get his butthole examined instead of getting a coloring book. Because of that, he was taken away. He was taken away to get his butthole examined instead of getting a coloring book. Handcuffed, Panda was taken down the hall into a private room with 6 deputies. They made Panda strip completely naked, bend over, and cough. All 6 COs stared at him before one took a closer look at his booty hole. I'll spare you the gruesome details. Whew. First hour is done. I gotta take a break real quick, guys, and get some water and everything. I will be right back. And hello to all my fantastic, wonderful people out there. Are you having a good day? I'm having a good day. I'm having a really good day, actually. But I'm now refreshed and ready to keep going, and as I continue on, I'm going to be reading even better than I was reading before, because you always read better after you have had a good moment of break, right? A good moment where you're like, this is me. I am now relaxed. I have wet my whistle. And now I'm ready to keep going. So, Panda was then placed in a padded smock, basically a small vest leaving him completely naked from the waist down. He was then placed in a padded... We said placed already. Panda was then placed... Let's change place to dressed. Panda was then dressed in a padded smock, basically a small vest, leaving him completely naked from the waist down. He was then placed in a padded suicide watch cell, where using the restroom meant shitting in a small hole in the floor that stunk up the entire cell. With deputies coming to check on him every 15 minutes, Panda was incredibly embarrassed of his exposed cock, balls, and ass for all to see. With nothing to do, no pages to color, not even a book to read, Panda passed the days singing to himself, comma, and slowly feeling like he was going insane. If he didn't want to kill himself now, before, he sure did now. The first night was especially hard on Panda. That jolly short and wide man, always quick with a joke or a good-natured smile whenever I needed it, was hurting. He laid down on the padded floor and wept himself to sleep. That is a true story, my friends. Poor guy. With seeking help from or in any way entrusting, mental health professionals clearly not an option. With seeking help or in any way trusting MHP Nope, we're going to scrap this whole sentence. Let's figure out a better way to say this. Without an ability to trust MHP, we inmates were left to cope with our own depression as best we could. For most guys, coping meant eating a ton of junk food and masturbating in copious amounts to whatever porn they could get their hands on. Several guys also took out their depression on others, channeling their feelings into violence. Others still took a lot of drugs and slept all day. Eating for comfort and making love to myself a healthy amount of times every day still helped me. Eating for comfort and making love to myself a healthy amount of times every day still helped me, but it didn't feel like enough. After 10 months in jail, I would definitely say I was well read. I'd finished over 100 books with no end in sight. Yet I felt like my time in jail was mostly a waste. What I needed was to feel useful, to have a purpose. I needed to focus on a goal. Thinking about this made my Thinking about this made me second guess making fun of all the wannabe rappers. Thinking about this made me second guess my opinion of all the wannabe rappers, poets, and artists. They were doing things to further and practice their artistic or musical abilities. They were doing things to further and practice their musical and artistic abilities, even if those abilities were completely non-existent or imaginary, birthed on illusion of grandeur. Who was I to make fun of the rapper who tried to talk so fast he was speaking in tongues, or the artist whose portraits all looked Picasso, and the drawn hands were always 2 sizes too small. And the hands were always drawn 2 sizes too small. Ha ha ha. Who was I to tell the singers not to quit their day job just 'cause they couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, or ask the artist if they got the picture in the mail from their 3-year-old kid? At least they were setting their mind to something, even if that something was hopeless pursuit that most assuredly would never amount to anything. Myself, I'd written a few short stories and some Dungeons and Dragons spell ideas for my game I'd dungeon mastered. #SuperNerd. But I hadn't made a real goal of writing. I decided then and there I'd focus my energy in jail on writing. I started by creating a tabletop RPG game manual. The creative process, as I've come to understand it, is a series of emotional ups and downs, full of doubt and self-deprecation. The creative process. Step number 1. This is a great idea. Step number 2. This is fun to work on. Step number 3. That doesn't quite work. Step number 4. Nope. Step number 5. I'm running out of erasers. Step number 6. I've run out of erasers. Step number 7. I'm running out of paper to throw away. Step number 8. I've run out of paper to throw away. Step number 9. I've sold my next 2 meals to Bubba for some erasers and paper. Step number 10. I'm now a starving artist. Step number 11. This sucks. Step number 12. I suck. Step number 13. I'm going to live out my life as the lowest of the low, a school janitor. Step number 14. Realizing I can't work at a school if I leave jail as a convicted felon. Step number 15. Rereading my work and deciding there might be something entertaining. There might be some entertaining parts. Step number 16. Return to step number 1. I think that part was pretty funny, actually. All the steps. I'm happy with it. Even with the ups and downs, I finally felt useful, like I was doing something worthwhile with my jail time. I was practicing and becoming a better writer. And maybe I'd leave jail with something I could use after my release. I just wished I could use something. I just wished I could use something other than short golf pencils to write with. Finishing the gaming manual I titled The Huntsman was a huge confidence booster, and led to me writing a dozen short stories, over 100 fantasy stories, and 2 memoirs, including this one. Everyone needs something to look forward to or not. Everyone needs something to look forward to or something to do to feel useful. Considering myself and my time valuable again did a lot to keep depression at bay. Considering myself and my time valuable again did a lot to keep depression at bay. My days had meaning again. Writing also gave me something new to talk about with my family and friends. Too many jail conversations went, "Hi, Mom." "Hi, sweetheart." "How are you?" "I'm all right." "How is it in there?" It's jail." "Anything new?" "No, everything here pretty much stays the same. And I can't talk about a lot of this stuff here when I know the COs are listening to the phone call." "Oh, well, food any better?" "I got a ketchup packet today." ... "Okay, bye." Click. "Mom?" I found it usually best to focus on asking them about their lives. They had a fancy fridge with plenty of ketchup in it. Entire bottles of ketchup. They didn't know how special one ketchup packet was to me in close custody. But writing gave me something to talk about, comma. I started mailing them my stories to read, and we talked about them. I started mailing my stories to them to read. And we talked about them. I was also able to ask for their support by sending my books on writing. The people who cared about me seemed happy that I could do things to make my time in Max better. and were excited to know I was making the most of my days. That's a little wordy. It's a little wordy. Let's fix that up a little bit, huh? The people who cared about me seemed happy that I could do that. The people who cared about me seemed happy that I could do things. People who cared about me seemed happy that they could do things to make my time in Max better, and were excited to know I was making the most of my days. We both got a lot more out of our video visits. My squirrel, don't lie to me. Where did you hide that nut? I gave a smile from my bunk. Mafia had been coming up with his own versions of popular songs all week. A few were actually pretty good. Rape city bitch, rape city bitch, rape city bitch, rape city bitch, 10, 10, 10, 12-year-olds are victims, bitch. Dude, that's terrible. Well, it's not like anyone outside the cell will overhear it. You didn't hear it technically. You, the reader, didn't hear it technically. Knock, knock, knock. Leprechaun was at the door. Did you see this bullshit? He said as he slid the local paper under the door. Let's change that to my door since I already said the door in the last sentence. On the front page, there was what we'd all been waiting for, an article about our county's court system. The article talked about the backlog of cases, but it did little to talk about the legality of what the courts were doing by ignoring our trial rights. It also didn't talk about the COVID outbreak going on inside the jail, or how inmates' lives had been so much worse thanks to the virus. Whoa, they're missing a few things. Of course they are, Leprechaun raged. He was such a scary, mean little man. I love him. I miss him. Of course they are, Leprechaun raged. The newsmen get their news from the government, who are in charge of the jail. They won't write what might make them look bad. They're just waiting to gurgle the county's cum down their long bird necks. The media won't write what might make the government look bad. The newsmen get their news from the government, who are in charge of the jail. They don't want to risk losing their sources. The media won't write what might make the government look bad. They're just waiting to gurgle the county's cum down their long bird necks. I thought Leprechaun's response was a bit extreme, but I did feel people should be made aware of what was happening. I started to write a response to the article, and boy gee golly did I feel good. I had become an activist, informing the public of injustices within the justice system and local jail, hidden from everyday citizen scrutiny. Hidden from everyday citizen scrutiny. I was making a difference. I was making the Department of Corrections, thus my community, my county, and the world a better place. I was basically Gandhi. The local paper wrote me a nice email saying they'd send my information to the proper editor. Nothing ever came of it, but I still felt good to do something. I started writing letters to the editor on a regular basis, and had my family send email updates to all my friends. So at least a few people were now informed of the injustices I was forced to endure on a daily basis. No, let's take that out. I was just like Rosa Parks. With selfless activism in mind, I in no way was this to selfishly better my environment. With selfless activism in mind, this was in no way selfishly. With selfless activism in mind, this was in no way to selflessly better my environment. I started writing messages to the jail about the staff. COVID restrictions, the food, realizing all inmates' requests were brushed off with short responses that never really addressed the issue, such as kosher meals have been planned for foreseeable future. When I asked what the nutritional value of a kosher meal is, kosher meals have been planned for the foreseeable future. When I asked what the nutritional value of a kosher meal, I started having family call into the facility and, when appropriate, the health department. I was a new Attila the Hun. A few of my concerns, such as food being served cold, were eventually addressed. Unfortunately, there was no way of knowing if my messages caused the change, or if they happened on their own. I liked to think what I did might be making things better. Just the possibility of what I did making a difference felt good. Like Martin Luther King, I had a dream and would continue to be an activist. Like an avalanche, my actions inspired other inmates to do the same. I was leading a revolution. I was a hero, just like Kim Jong-un. Dude, check it out. I called my housemate Mafia to the window. Dude, check it out. I called my housemate Mafia to the window. At 5'7", he was 5 inches shorter than me, making him the perfect height to look over. Mafia, that's better. Mafia crouched slightly. My nose just above his forehead. We stared out our cell window together. Bang, bang, bang. We watched one of the crazy guys headbutt his cell door over and over again. Bang, bang, bang. Ow. Ha! Crazy screamed. That last bang was accompanied by a splatter of blood on the cell window. He'd hit the edge of the window, splitting his head open, shooting blood over the door. Shooting blood all over the door. The COs hauled him to the infirmary and then suicide watch since he hurt himself. He'd returned stitched up. He returned stitched up, looking like reverse Friar Tuck, with only the top of his head shaved bald. What a goofy little guy, I commented. Oh, look, said Mafia. Boro is coming over to say hi. No, he's not. He knows better now. Knows I don't give jailhouse beggars free stuff. He probably wants to thank you for the juice. I didn't give him any juice. Mafia turned to me with a big shit-eating grin. You sure about that, bud? You didn't. You didn't. I was so mad. These people are making me talk to someone I don't want to talk to. They're making me communicate with Boro, the worst beggar around. Not a fan. Hey, Trevor, Boro said through the door. Thanks for the juices. That was really cool of you. I stared at him with angry annoyance. He stared back with blissful ignorance. 2 1000s later, Boro opened his mouth again. Got any bread, brah? I am no one's brah. And I turned away to my desk. Boro left, leaving Mafia laughing up a storm. Ah, that was so worth it. Why on earth did you do that? Because it was funny as hell. In his squeaky little voice, Hey, Trevor, that was pretty cool of you, brah. He annoyed you so much. Of course he annoys me. He's ugly with a squeaky voice, on top of being a brain-fried druggie constantly asking for free shit. He's everything I despise. Well, soon, he'll be your best friend. I'm sure the ongoing joke was incredibly confusing to Boro. He'd get food and juices from me, only to find me in person giving rude 1 or 2 word responses or just flat out ignoring him. Boro even sent me a letter in February asking if I'd be his Valentine and if I had any kibbles for him. Ugh. Everything about Boro was disgusting. I got Mafia back, though. A few words here and there. Soon everyone thought his friend he video visited with was his homosexual lover. I don't think he ever found out I started the rumor. I don't think he ever found out I was the one who started the rumor. Such antics became commonplace. But aside from our pranks, we were able to talk, play games, and become real friends. He would also be my longest housemate, living together for 10 months. Dude, look at Gaucho. I came to the window to see Gaucho kneeling in the middle of the pod during the national anthem before the TV's football game. I came to the window to see Gaucho kneeling in the middle of the pod during the national anthem before the TV's football game. Before the football game on TV started. Do 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 do. I came to the window to see Gaucho kneeling in the middle of the pod during the national anthem before the football game on TV started. Oh my gosh, I said slowly. Does he think he somehow is taking a stand for Black Lives Matter? He looks retarded. Everyone's staring at him. He knows he's not Colin Kaepernick, right? No one cares if you kneel, Gaucho. Mafia gave a chuckle. Oh wait, hang on. Did I mess that up? Yeah, this is a new... There we go. Much better. Mafia gave a chuckle. You know they say Black Lives Matter, but Michael Jackson says it doesn't matter if you're black or white. I laughed for saying, you know, I did one of those ancestry tests. Turns out I actually have a black guy in my family tree. Really? Yep, he's still hanging there. With a pat on my back, we both laughed the day away. Like they say, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. With Mafia as my laughing buddy on top of everything else, dealing with disappointment wasn't too hard. I started curving my expectations, assuming my court date would continually be pushed back. I did my best to ignore the circumstances. I started curving my expectations, assuming my court date would continually be pushed back. I did my best to ignore the circumstances and just tried to live my life as best I was able. Like Kunta Kinte, I would persevere. I hope the comedy's coming off in this one. I'm doing a lot of, and I mean a lot of funny, comparisons. Like, I clearly don't actually think I'm Rosa Parks. I clearly don't think I'm, Kunta Kinte. I'm being funny, and I hope that that's coming across well. I think it is, but you never really know until a reader tells you one way or the other. And of course, all you fabulous live stream people, you chat. Thank you all for letting me know. All right, we've got 20 more minutes. So let's go chapter 11, Get Strong. Fat people are disgusting. Leprechaun was at the door, complaining to Mafia. I like how it keeps wanting me to change it to the Mafia. It's like, no, Mafia is the name of a person. Leprechaun was at the door, complaining to Mafia and I about his old celly. They smell and fart all the time. I mean, look at that fatso. Fatso was sitting at one of the tables, watching TV, his folds of fat draped over his body, making the entire metal seat disappear. I laughed. It looks like the pole is going up his ass. Damn it, it does, replied Leprechaun. Well, said Mafia, excuse me. That's what 400 plus pounds looks like. Have you guys seen those porn videos where fat women eat a ton of food that guys buy them? The guys are called feeders. Ew, that's so gross. I couldn't imagine people being into such a kink. Fat people repulse me, Leprechaun chimed. I don't understand why they always smell like that. Do they all forget to clean under their neck fat? It's probably genetic for him, Mafia said. His mom's probably fat too. I took my cue. Yeah, when she falls down, no one laughs, but the ground cracks up. I got a few chuckles before Mafia came back at me. You're one to talk, pointing a thumb at me while speaking to the others. I saw this guy crush 2 Swiss rolls between 2 honey buns and eat the entire thing in one sitting. Leprechaun gave me a look of surprise. No way. I remained silent during this exchange. knowing there was no defense for the things I'd done. I swear to God. That's like 2,000 calories. Ate it all in under 2 minutes. It's no wonder he farts all the time. Oh, dude. He's an undercover fat kid. He puts peanut butter on Snickers, melts Hershey's chocolate bars to spread on top of the honey buns and popcorn. I've even seen him crush up and popcorn. We'll start a new sentence there. I've even seen him crush up Swiss rolls and mix them into his popcorn. He eats at least a bag a day. No wonder you're getting fat. All the extra desserts he has coming under our door doesn't help either. Desserts. We want desserts. 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 I'm not tired, you're tired. I'm not tired, chat, you're tired, chat. My goodness, people. Let's make popcorn one word. Definitely one word. No wonder you're getting fat. All the extra desserts he has coming under our door doesn't help either. I felt the need to defend myself now. It's not my fault I'm a pinochle god. Leprechaun gave a laugh. It's a wonder you're not 300 pounds. He's on his way, Mafia threw in. With no good responses available to me, I replied lamely, "You guys are just jealous of my Greek god-like bod and my chiseled chin." I stuck my practiced head angled chin up, hands on hips, chiseled chin pose. I stuck my practiced head angled chin up, hands on hips, chiseled chin pose. Strike a pose. Struck, not stuck. I struck my practiced head, angled chin, hands on hips, chiseled chin pose. Oh, the laughter I heard. Leprechaun was the first to recover. You really think you're God's gift to humanity, don't you? You're completely oblivious to how you really look, or that you have a fat double chin right now. Look in the mirror. Later that night, as my cellie slumbered, I stood in front of the mirror assessing myself, moving my chin every which way. I didn't like what I saw. I had a fat neck. I had a double chin. I had a fat face. I removed my extra large shirt that was sitting a bit tight to see my fat fold hanging over my waistline. At least it was just one fat fold. I jiggled my belly, and when I stopped moving, my tummy didn't. I looked myself up and down, flexed, and fondled my own boobs. I turned to my half-asleep cellmate as he stirred. "Hey, Mafia?" Was the half-drowsy sound I got back. "Mafia? Harumph. Am I fat?" "Trevor, we were just teasing you. You don't need to be so self-conscious. You aren't fat." I turned back to the mirror, feeling a bit better before Mafia finished his thoughts, adding, "You're pleasantly plump." Well, that was that. It was time to get back in shape. That night, Becca, jiggly belly, love the details. That's one of those things that you gotta have fun with, right? If you're gonna have it, you might as well just have it in there. I was though. I was a lot bigger than I am now. I was a lot thinner than I am now too. But we'll get into that. Well, that was that. It was time to get back in shape. That night, I laid on my bunk, planning my return to Greek god status, and wondering how it got so far. And wondering how it got this far. am wondering how I'd gone so far from it. There we go. I knew how it had gotten this bad. How it had gotten this bad. I had done almost no physical activity for over half a year. Sure, I did a few push-ups at the beginning, a few light workouts here and there, but not consistently. We had no exercise equipment, no weights, not even a pull-up bar. Before you knew it, months had passed. Before I knew it, months had passed. But it was easy to make excuses and tell yourself you don't have anyone to impress. Because I didn't. I really didn't have anyone to impress at that point, right? There was no reason for me to stay in shape because there was nothing to do. I mean, what was the point? No one was going to see me. Well, I did have someone to impress. Myself. And all the other inmates. COs, family, and friends I saw on video visits. Plus, I'd have to eventually stand before a jury. If that jury was sexually attracted to me, then there's no way I'd be found guilty. Haha, always thinking. It was clear that I had to lose the fat. How do you lose fat? You burn it off. That meant cardio. The problem was how to get it. I'm on page 4 of 15. I'm not going to be able to finish this whole chapter today, but oh my goodness, guys, we did 4 and a half chapters today, if you include the beginning live stream with this live stream right now. So I am going to call it a night and get to work on some other things. If you haven't already, make sure that you check out the Patreon. If you enjoy short stories, that is definitely the place to be. And as always, enjoy what you read, love what you write. If you haven't checked me out on different social media platforms, I'm on TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube, and I love all of them, even if TikTok does keep saying that I'm being rude or mean. Patreon, if you enjoy short stories, it's only $5 to subscribe, and you can read all the different short stories that we've posted on there. There's over a dozen short stories on there now, and they're all wonderful. I love writing short stories with you guys. You're so good at helping me figure out the words and figure out different characters' names and helping me with storylines. So definitely check me out on Patreon if you haven't already, and just support me and support the channel. It's a great way to do it. So have a fantastic rest of your night.